Hi everyone, today I'm creating some cards using Kendra's Card Challenge number 12. There are instructions on how to cut up 6 pieces of pattern paper to make 15 cards, all with unique designs. These are absolutely fantastic. I love doing these. They come out every 3 months. And generally I do them at least once, and sometimes I pick my favorite sketches and I use them to create more cards. So today I'm using Paper Rose paper. I'm using the Mayer's Garden Basics and the die cuts. There is also a Mayer's Garden paper pack which is in the middle there. I didn't use that one today because I decided using the really simple designs means it doesn't matter what direction the paper is cut. So sometimes you need to be really careful about which paper you put in which positions, because some of the layouts mean that the paper can be used left, right, sideways, upside down on the card. The cutting guide does have arrows to help you, but this is cheating a little bit maybe, but if I pick these types of papers, they can go any direction and it's just a lot quicker to create the cards and a lot less stress, to be honest. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a look at the papers that I've selected and I'm trying to put them in an order so that the pattern papers that are used on the individual cards I think will work well together. I'm trying to avoid putting the stripes and the dots on the same card. Well, not on the same card, but on the same card as the main pieces of the design. And also the darker blue, like the medium-y blue, and the light blue, just so that I've got a bit of color variation. So I'm using the guide at the end that tells you which pattern paper goes on which card. And I'm just cross-checking to make sure I'm pretty happy with how they lay out. And then I'm just going to chop up all of the pieces and move on to the card creating part. I've tried a couple of different ways to chop all the papers down, and what I found is if I lay out the blank card bases and then chop down the pieces and just sit them on top of each card, then this is the quickest for me. I'm just following the cutting guide on the left hand side, and then on my workspace I have 10 white A2 card bases across the top row and then 5 across the bottom. I always do the 10 and 5 because it means I can count 1 through 5, 10 down to 6, and then 11 through 15. I don't know if that's confusing for other people, but it just means if I've got 10 and 5, it's a lot easier just to figure out where to put the pieces of pattern paper with the card base itself. I ran through and chopped all of these down. It was really straightforward. I will say that in these cutting guides, there are a few circles that you need to be a bit careful with, but other than that, it was pretty straightforward. For card number 1, you can see I'm using a Kraft coloured base layer. I use this a lot throughout the process, and you can see that on Kendra's sketch up on the top right, she does include a lot more references to using some cardstock or some extra pattern paper to make sure that each card has a lot of colour and a lot of opportunity to be interesting. I've had some people let me know that they haven't done these in the past because they find that some of the cards end up pretty sparse and not as well decorated as they prefer. But I feel like the card sketches have changed a little bit, and there's many more references to extra things to add to the cards so that they have the right level of interest that would be more popular. With this one, I followed pretty true to the sketch. I am adding, as I said, the Kraft layer, and I'm using my ATG and my liquid glue quite interchangeably throughout this process, but I would say for any of the big pieces that I'm attaching to a card, I'm using my ATG today. Here we have a happy birthday card, and I don't normally add the little circles that are part of card designs, but I have a few of these little circles in my stash and I have put them beside me, so I include them whenever I get a chance. So that is card number 1. I have put some links below in the description to the pattern paper pack and any of the stamp sets or extras that I've used when creating the cards today. So if there's anything that piques your interest, you should be able to find it below. And for anything retired, I have made a note. On to card number 2. This one has a half circle cut out of it, which is very clever because it is behind the second square. So when I layer this one up and put the second one on top, it completely covers up that half circle, which means we've got a cool element for, I think, card number 8. And you can't tell. So very clever by Kendra, the way that she has created these card designs. A little bit of pre-planning involved in these, I'm sure, but I did find that it was very easy to follow. The instructions are great. So 2 squares on this one, and I added a big thanks sentiment. This is from Birch Press, and I have done this with my hot foil machine. So this one has come out of my stash. That is card number 2. For card number 3, I went very rogue. I just did not have the patience to do all of the circles, so I really appreciate the detail in this card, and it looks like a super, super cool design, but I couldn't be bothered die cutting. I'm so sorry. So what I did was I grabbed the square that should have had the pattern paper cut out into the half circles and used for this layout. And I decided just to add that to the line across the middle, which was per the sketch. And then I just added some elements from the die cuts in the Mayor's Garden pack. So a lot simpler. This is still a cute card. I quite like it, but I just did not have the patience to fiddle around with all of those circles. Maybe I will challenge myself to come back to that sketch down the track and create something that has that level of, I guess it's got a bit of a geometric feel. I like it, I do, but I really wanted to create all of these cards and get them done quick enough that I could create a video for sharing. So that is card number 3. As it turns out, card number 3 and my variation of it ended up quite similar to card number 4. Now, this one does have a bigger strip of pattern paper, or a big strip of pattern paper through the middle of the card design. And I have a giant stash of leftover pattern paper that is in 1.5 inch strips. So there's a couple of designs in the card challenge this quarter that I think I might be able to reuse to work my way through that stash. And maybe I'll be able to actually use it to create a whole bunch of Christmas cards. Are you still looking for Christmas card design ideas? I'm thinking maybe some people still are. So let me know in the comments if that would be helpful, and maybe I can prioritize some more Christmas card videos before we hit the holidays. Again, here I'm adding a couple of these little circles, which is perfect. And then I do have some of the die cuts to attach to this one. You can see my glue was not dry when I started to do that, so the circle moved. But now with this one, I tried to offset it a little bit on the left of the square, and I like how that looks, but I'm not such a fan of where I put that sentiment. I don't know where else I would put it, but they look a bit separated to me. So that is card number 4, but I probably would do it differently if I recreated these cards. On to card number 5. This one is really cool. Now, the layout is not flashy, but there was something about creating this, again, that made me think, I have so many scraps and I've got so many different designs that use, little squares in little grids, etc. But I like the way this has the 2 longer ones at the bottom and then the 2 smaller squares at the top. And then even maybe it's to do with that strip through the middle. I'm just thinking, I do have some brads in my stash that I have basically never used. I'm wondering if they would work for this if I made some more. Maybe. But for the moment, these pattern papers are doing their job, and they match so well with the Kraft backing layer that everything's working out really well. And you can see here that I have cut a circle for behind the happy birthday sentiment out of the middle of that backing panel. I do that quite regularly just because it's going to be covered up anyway, and it means that I don't have to cut circles and strange shapes out of new pieces of paper, and then it just saves on wastage basically. So this one I really, really enjoyed, and this is card number 5. There were a few times when I was actually using a particular side of the pattern paper, and when I turned it over I was like, I wonder if the back side would be actually better to use for this card sketch. And only once did I decide to do that. So I did hold pretty true to my early decisions, but that is one of the really good flexible things about using double-sided paper. Paper Rose does their 6x6 pattern papers with 18 sheets in a pack, and they're double-sided. And they do their A5 with 24 in a pack single-sided. I find that I get better value out of the A5, but I've tried to use them before for Kendra's Card Challenge, and because the A5 is slightly narrower than 6 inches, it makes it a complete nightmare. So I did not use it this time. I did decide to have 2 extra pieces of the 6x6 paper just so that I could do the extra elements called for in the card sketches. I've done that in the past as well, just so that I can do a few top-ups here and there, and it works out absolutely brilliantly. So I always put aside the 6 that I need and 2 spares. This is card number 6. On to card number 7. Now this one was super fiddly, and I have trimmed down the video here quite a bit, but basically I had the leftovers on my desk with some 1/2-inch strips of the Kraft paper, which is quite thin, but I just layered this between each of the pattern papers, and for the most part I was able to use the items that were per the sketch. But with some of them, I did actually grab a couple of spare pieces from my extra 2 6x6 so that I could have them line up perfectly. I wasn't sure what I was going to put in the middle of the card, so it calls for a big rectangle. I should just cut a whole bunch of these out and have them ready to go in my stash, but I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. So like on several of these cards, I used up some of my thanks hot foil sentiments. These have been in my stash for a little while, and because of the size of them, they add a whole lot of interest to a card itself. In theory, I should have probably used more of my die cuts because they are absolutely gorgeous, but for several of these, I literally just added the sentiment and then I called it done. I could maybe go back afterwards and add a few more embellishments or interesting things, but I like that card just as it is. I've always wanted to create some cards with just a load of circles, and I've never really had the confidence just to sit down and cut up a whole bunch of pattern paper into circles and then figure out how to use them. But looking at this, just having the 3 circles that are, I think they're 2.5 inches. Yeah, I think that's right. This looks pretty cool to me, and I only added 1 layer of matting on the design. I've just noticed now that it has 2. So in theory, I probably should have matted the Kraft onto some black, and that would have added a little bit more interest and made it pop a little bit more. But this is, again, one of the clever cards with the circles. The half circle got cut out of the card number 2 and then was able to be used where you won't see the fact that it's a partial circle because of the way this third one layers on the front here. It's a cool card. I really like it. I'm not sure that I laid out the circles in the best possible way, but it was fun to try. That was card number 8. For card number 9, this is the one that I switched the paper, and I think it would have worked as it was intended here, but because it just happened to be that that striped paper was only in the pinks and the blue, there was no yellow to tie into the other piece of paper. So when I flipped it over to do the matting of the second pattern paper panel, I realized that the other side was a color that I think will match better to this top layer. So you'll see me in a moment flip it over and then just make a decision on the fly that I'm going to make it blue instead of yellow. Oop, there's the decision. I flipped it over and I just kept moving. So that was good. Quick decision is a good decision. If you are enjoying the video, it would be fantastic if you could hit the like button or leave a comment below. And if you're interested in more videos, then you could also hit subscribe. Okay, this one, again, lots of thank you cards that I've created. I do donate them to charities and they often do send out thank you cards to people who are supporting their cause. So these ones will definitely go to good use. But I just realized just how many thank you cards I've done today. That was card number 9. This next card is a birthday card, which is good. And this sketch really surprised me. I am going to definitely make more of this one, and I will happily share that card number 10 is one of my favorite sketches. I don't know, when I was preparing the pieces and chopping up all of the elements, it didn't really grab my attention, but when I was putting it together, I don't know if it's the black and white strip through the middle or the fact that it's a simple layout but looks really pretty smart. I loved it. Maybe it's the pattern paper. Paper rows create incredible pattern papers and all of them really just, match so well to this Kraft backing layer, and they are just pretty. I love the color combinations. Now I did use a little piece of the die cuts, and this one is a little corner shape with gorgeous flowers. I did consider popping it up on some foam tape, and then I decided I haven't used anything to elevate anything on these cards today, so I'm going to keep these all nice and flat. So I just used my liquid glue, and this was really simple to put together. I didn't add a rectangle like the card sketch, but I did decorate it my own way. So that is card number 10. On to card number 11. I am not a huge fan of banners, and I'm pretty hopeless at cutting the little banner tag part and making sure that that is, I don't know, centered and balanced. But for this one, it was quite straightforward. There was 4 that were the exact same size, and they really just go down the side of this Kraft piece for a little bit of decoration. So in this instance, I did go with it. I probably didn't have much imagination for what else I would do to decorate this card instead of this, but it was quick and straightforward, and just 4 of the gorgeous pattern papers down the left adds absolutely an element of interest. And I do have a few big sentiments, so for this one I used my Have a Beautiful Day. That is card number 11. For card number 12, I was able to use a whole bunch of these little 1/4-inch strips that I seem to just end up with on my desk. Now, I think it's just the way that we cut down particular sizes. So if I do black backing panels, for example, and I'm using A4 paper here in Australia, it is 8 1/4 wide. So if I'm cutting down to 2 4-inch backing panels, I end up with loads of these strips. Now, there is a card sketch that was in Kendra's Card Challenge number 11 that uses a bunch of these 1/4-inch strips, and I have an intention to create some cards using up loads of leftovers. But it was nice to see that in sketch number 12 of Card Challenge number 12 that I was able to use some of these up. And in the black colour, they are a really, really, really feature element, and they stand out way more than if I had decided to do these with white, for example. This one is a very, very simple card, but I think the really cool lawn fawn sentiment on it makes it pop, and this is card number 12 complete. For card number 13, again, I have lots of circle sentiments this time. I think it's because Kendra included quite a few, but I always have circle sentiments in my stash, and I'll even switch up the card designs to use what I have, so maybe that's why. So we do have a few banners on this one, which I am chopping down. Again, I'm really not good at making these balanced and symmetrical, but you can see I'm just rolling with it and getting the job done. I did line up trying to make these similar to what we have on the card sketch. So I started with that big banner that goes pretty much all the way to the bottom of the front of the card. And then for the middle size one, I've got it on the left-hand side, so it's a little bit taller. And then in the middle, I've got the smallest one, and that pops up a little bit higher. So I'm going to trim down the extra pattern paper from the top so that it goes all the way to the top of the card design, but it is just a little bit of excess that you chop off. Now through the middle, you're supposed to have a 1/2-inch banner. I still have these black strips, so I thought I will just use 2 of those instead, and it holds pretty true to the design, but it uses what I have ready to go. So this one is looking really, really cool, and this is card number 13. For card number 14, I did a slightly different approach. I have previously created some cards using uniquely creative pattern paper, and all of the sample cards had this distressed look. I have not used it in so long, but what it does is it means you can do that instead of doing the matting layers, which makes cards sometimes a little bit quicker. I'm going to use a Kraft paper pack that I received this week to create an entire series of cards using the distress look rather than matting layers. 36 sheets in each of their packs means that maybe I will be able to create less cards with a lot more interest, which is a different approach for me. So here it is. This is card number 14. Now we're on to card number 15, and you'll start to see here that I've used a little bit of the die cuts. So I should have used more of these throughout the cards, but I do like to have pretty simple cards and not have a lot of interest in a lot of layers. So probably that's just a style thing for me, but I did pick out one of the yellow, blue and pink that were all of a good size to actually go together. The pack has quite a lot of different sizes to choose from. And I nearly put that middle one up on some foam tape, but I decided again that I wasn't going to add foam tape to any of these. I'm going to keep them nice and flat. And this card sketch is one of my favorites. So my favorites are 1, 5 and 10, and 15 was a close runner-up. I have put a video here that I think you might enjoy. Have a great day.